Here we go. Jake and Josh are here to analyze the game they love for the team they love. This is another Dolphins podcast. Here's your host, Jake Mendel and Josh Houtz.
Thanks for tuning into another edition of another Dolphins podcast. My watch is telling me that it's midweek. That must mean Marek is back joining us after he was with us yesterday. But there's the entire trio here. Is Joshua Houtz is joining us, gentlemen.
Happy Wednesday, Jake. Happy Wednesday, Josh. And happy Wednesday/Thursday to our listeners out there. Let's talk some Dolphins football, shall we?
Yeah, happy to be here with you guys. Glad I can come on this time and talk Dolphins football and see both of your handsome faces. So let's do this thing.
I thought for sure Josh was going to say no and just stop. No, stop talking right there. I don't want to talk Dolphins.
I should have said no, I'm out.
Josh, it was your wedding anniversary yesterday, correct?
Yeah, 8 years.
Okay, congratulations first, but second, I need to know what a former top level chef does on a wedding anniversary. Do you cook dinner or do you go out to dinner?
I'm going to be cooking dinner today. She likes filet. She loves that stuff mooing still, medium rare almost, and then bacon wrapped scallops. She's all about bacon wrapped scallops. So I got those. I'm going to cook after this. But I was going to do it yesterday, and then I said maybe we should just order pho. And I don't know if you guys ever had pho, Vietnamese.
Yes, sir.
So delicious, but it makes you get the faux poops on the next day are never good. So so that's what I ate though for the anniversary. Thanks for asking.
Little surf and turf tonight.
And I'm very proud that the chef decided to order someone who will eat their steaks like the rest of us. That is always a very positive sign here. That's how you know you found the right one. Josh, talking about the wife, talk about anniversary, you have a big smile on your face. And, we were just joking that you didn't want to talk Dolphins football. Let's talk about something you don't want to talk about. And that's the fact that Devon Achane has officially been placed on injured reserve.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping to come on here and talk with you guys and try to ease our listeners' pain, right? Because it sucks because he was, doing everything he was, setting the world on fire, breaking every record. But let's be honest, it's, they got Jeff Wilson, Salvon Ahmed's coming back. Raheem Mostert looks like a beast. So I don't know that's a huge hit to this running back room, but it does suck to see, a guy that looked that dynamic, that explosive, have his season, cut 4 games short at least, right? It does sound like he'll be back in time for that Raiders game, but you never want to see these guys go on IR.
Marek, I want to ask you, do you see, Devon Achane, I think the best way to describe his performance is he's an easy button, right? You got the Staples easy button. You just kind of press it, boom, 70-yard touchdown. That was easy. As this Miami Dolphins offense tries to overcome a scenario like that, where you're losing someone who's averaging 12 yards per carry, which I don't know how you make up for that, but do you see this offense still, thriving on big plays, or is it going to be just the reliability and the consistency of this receiving group, of this running back group, that really just kind of sustains the offense for the next few weeks?
Yeah, I think this team wins in a bunch of different ways. So I think they do have the ability to hit those home runs, those long touchdown passes, those long touchdown runs. Raheem Mostert is having a career year as well in that running back room, so he should help ease the loss of Devon Achane. And Jeff Wilson's coming back, like Josh alluded to. A name you didn't mention, Josh, is actually the number 3 graded ball carrier in the NFL this season, according to PFF, and that's Chris Brooks. Jake dropped that on me yesterday when we were talking about this Achane injury. And apparently Chris Brooks, the number 3 graded ball carrier in the league this season, according to PFF. So he might get an extended look this week, especially if the game gets out of hand. The Dolphins are not allowed to take the Carolina Panthers lightly, but we can, because we don't play for that team and they don't give a shit what we have to say. So sorry, you're gonna have to hit that bleep button there. But yeah, this team can win in multiple different ways. They can be methodical. They can march down the field. They can dink and dunk and get that yak that they maybe hadn't gotten in years past. But now I think Tua is number 3 in the league as far as yak is concerned. Like, he gets the 3rd most amount of yards after catch from his pass catchers, but he's also like number 2 or 3 in the league in air yards per attempt as well. So that just proves my point. The Dolphins can beat you in any which way they choose, either the big play or methodically marching down the field. And that's great. That has the makings for a top level offense, which the Dolphins have been so far this season.
Josh, if the Dolphins hope to sustain themselves, which offensive playmaker steps up? Is it another running back? I'm not saying obviously more running backs are going to be involved, but who do you think does that heavy lifting in terms of, hey, I'm going to get 200 yards on a given day? Probably not that much, though.
Yeah, I was gonna first joke Chase Claypool, right? I know I've gotten some stuff for him. I mean, we got to get Waddle more involved. I mean, that's obviously a cliche answer,
10,
but I
10
mean,
targets against
10
the
targets,
Giants.
two were picks. We got to throw that out there. Two of them were picked. But yeah, you just want to see the same, more Jalen Waddle, right? You want to see him getting those yak yards out, like Marek mentioned that they're actually getting this season. So I'd go with that. Joke Chase Claypool. I think Salvin Ahmed. I even wrote up the article earlier about him going on injured reserve. Achan, and I kind of completely forgot Salvin Ahmed was there. And I mean, let's be honest, he was above Achan early on the depth chart and with playing time and things like that. So, yeah, I'll say Waddle, but it's probably going to be Salvin Ahmed as well, taking on some of that workload.
Wasn't the issue with Waddle on Sunday, and big picture here, I posted the idea of, Waddle had 10 targets. He had 5 receptions. And then Tyreek Hill only missed one of his targets. And I think Tua completed all of his other passes. And the reason I wanted to bring that up wasn't necessarily because, the Dolphins are struggling to get Waddle involved. It just seems like, and I think the Dolphins are going to get better at this, Tua is like all of us when we play Madden. They just want to throw it to Waddle, right? And I think that's kind of the issue the Dolphins fell into on Sunday. I think even Tua might have heard some of the rumblings of, hey, Waddle doesn't have his first touchdown. Let's try to get him involved. We know the connection those two have. So I wouldn't read too much into those 5 missed targets, including the 2 interceptions. It just did kind of seem like Tua went out there and he had that Madden mindset of let's get my boy some stats here.
Yeah, and on one of those interceptions, it actually shouldn't have happened because the play before the interception was actually what appeared obvious to all of us, a defensive pass interference on the Giants defender on Waddle in the end zone. So it either should have been a touchdown on that play or at worst, first and goal from the 1 yard line. And then they probably would have just ran it in with either Achane or Mostert. So there were 2 interceptions, but there's a little asterisk on that first one there.
Spin zone.
The main reason, gentlemen, we have gotten together today is you don't magically become 4-1. Well, I guess you do if you have Mike McDaniel calling the shots, but I thought it'd be a good idea to go through a few of the players who have exceeded expectations so far. Some guys who have went back up for seconds. I've done enough. I want to go back and do more for this team. We each have one player to bring to the table. I think it's 2 offensive, 1 defensive, but shows how much I've done to prepare for this. Guys, I want to start because originally I was going to cut this player. Austin Jackson's been a damn good right tackle so far. There, I said it. I don't want to be that guy, but I told you guys all offseason, this is someone who's 25 years old. Actually, he doesn't turn 25 until May. Obviously, being a former first-round pick, you're under the microscope right away. I think Austin Jackson was the 5th tackle taken in that 2020 draft class, and everyone was very concerned. And, I mean, they had a right to be. I mean, he allowed 2 sacks and had 12 penalties in 2021. This was someone who it seemed like he was horrified to be out there and have to protect a quarterback against a defensive line. Sunday against the Giants was arguably his best game of his career. He's allowed just 1 sack this season. He had 4 pressures against Buffalo. He has just 1 since. So, guys, I just wanted to spend some time here and give Austin Jackson some flowers because for how much we talk about, is Teron Armstead going to be there? Connor Williams, is he holding out for more money, that type of thing. Austin Jackson just came in from day one, just did his job, and we're seeing it pay off. Someone who just kind of bought into the system year after year.
Yeah, and we will give you your flowers, Jake. We will, because you were the guy all offseason telling us to calm down on this Austin Jackson stuff. Josh and I were ready to get rid of him, for anything at that point. A half-eaten hot dog probably would have gotten the deal done.
That might have been brought up.
If we were in charge. But Austin Jackson has looked like a completely different player. You got to give a lot of credit to him and the work he put in this offseason. But I'd also like to give a lot of credit to Butch Barry, because whatever Butch Barry is doing with this offensive line, it's working. It's working. This is essentially the same offensive line from last year with Isaiah Wynn added in, but they are significantly better. And that's with Teron Armstead in and out of the lineup and Kendall Lamb having to replace him there. But Austin Jackson has been a mainstay on that right side, on that right tackle spot, and he has looked great. And I believe, like you said, 1 sack on the season. I think that was given up to Matthew Judon, who is a stellar pass rusher for the New England Patriots. He's got a biceps injury and looks like he's done for the year. So next time the Dolphins play the Patriots, you won't even see a Matthew Judon on the field. So Austin Jackson looking like a completely different player, a reformed player, a better player. Really just killing it in that run game. We talked about him not giving up sacks, but he's really just a mauler in that run game as well. You see him every week, just, when Josh posts his cut-ups of either Achane or Mostert, you see Austin Jackson out there, hitting linebackers 7-8 yards downfield and completely erasing them from the play, allowing these running backs to pop these big gains, these chunk gains. And we run into that problem of what to do with them after this year. Do you re-sign them? Can you get them on a decent deal? Do you franchise tag them at this point? There's a lot of different options, and we'll see what they do once the season is over. But as far as this season goes, he absolutely has been killing it at that right tackle spot.
Yeah, we were never going to let you cut this out of here, Jake, especially after we're talking about the running game and just how awesome this team has been this year. I mean, that's part of the reason, right? How good that offensive line has played. I mean, you could talk about Isaiah Wynn, Kendall Lamb. You could add those guys to this list if we wanted to. But Austin Jackson, I am sorry. I told you this, I think, after week 1 that I was sorry after you, held Mac and Bosa in check. I'm sorry that I ever doubted you, and you're playing your ass off. Like Marek said, in any of those clips you see, I know George actually spotlighted the offensive line play, and you just see him getting out in front of everything. You can see his athleticism, why, scouts obviously liked him pre-draft. So it's nice that it's all coming together. And I wrote down Butch Berry before Marek even said it, because you have to give him his flowers, because I don't know what was wrong with the offensive line coaching. What in that room, we're not in that room. We're not a fly on the wall. I don't know what changed, but clearly something has changed, because all those guys are playing their ass off. They're keeping Tua clean, and it's led to those big gains. It's led to all the success we're having. So Austin Jackson, again, I'm sorry. We got a predicament now with you trying to figure out how much to pay him at the end of the year, keep him around. You got to do the same thing with Wynn, probably Connor Williams as well, Robert Hunt. So that entire offensive line is going to need to get paid one way or the other. So hopefully, I never thought I'd say this, but hopefully Austin Jackson's on the Dolphins next year.
And two, you mentioned George writes to the Finsider. Go check out his work. He does a lot of great film cut-ups for them over there. Jackson has just 1 penalty on the season of offensive linemen who have been on the field for at least 50% of snaps. He's ranked 31st among all offensive linemen. Josh, I got super queasy when you said franchise tag. That was super horrifying, because, oh my God, if they give Austin Jackson the franchise tag after not picking up the 5th-year option, that's one of the weirder decisions you'll see this team ever make. Guys, I'm curious, you bring up Butch Berry, and I think something that's very important for this offensive line. How important do you feel it is that I want to say there isn't a weakest link. There just isn't a god-awful link. There isn't like a link that's rotting away all the other links in this chain. So how important do you guys feel it is to just have 5 offensive linemen who, again, they don't have to be great, but 5 guys you can trust, and how that helps the offensive line in general sustain success and make everyone look a little better?
Well, no weak link unless you get Liam Eichenberg out there. And I think then we can all agree, and the rest of the fans out there can agree, he's definitely the weak link. And I'm sorry if Nancy Pomposi is listening to the podcast today for that Liam Eichenberg slander. But yeah, this unit works well together. They've played, with the caveat, there's been a little bit of shakeup here and there with Kendall Lamb coming in, and then Liam for a few snaps here and there as well. But they've played together all season. They've certainly formed that tight-knit group. Butch Berry as their fearless leader, getting in their faces and screaming at them. That seems to be working really well. He's a loud and vocal coach, according to most practice reports this offseason. But sometimes you need that as a unit. Sometimes you just need that type of coaching, and you can't always be everybody's best friend. So maybe he's the bad cop to Mike McDaniel's good cop in this scenario. That'd actually be kind of fun, don't you think? We can get a little off-season content, a little Miami Dolphins YouTube show. Good cop, bad cop, Mike McDaniel, Butch Berry. Well, I'm going to start writing the script. I'll pitch it to somebody out there.
Fangio's got to be in it too, though, right? He always seemed like he's a
for sure.
cop, but he's just up.
No, he's the mob boss.
Okay,
he's the mob boss.
I was just gonna say it means everything, Jake. The fact that they're playing so well together. They've most of these guys have come. I mean, Austin Jackson and Robert Hunt have been next to each other since this thing started, right? So to see the way it's all coming together, they have to feel good about it. I just fear that I'm saying all this, saying that Austin Jackson 2024, and we're 5 weeks into the season. Maybe I should have waited for that. I don't know.
We'll do this again week 10.
Oh yeah. Would you guys agree that you think Austin Jackson's the biggest surprise on this offensive line? I mean, we can seriously go right down the list and give basically anyone flowers. If Teron Armstead, if he's, not melting out there on the field and you can actually keep him upright, he's been absolutely awesome. Kendall Land, you can't say enough about him on how he's protected that left side of the offensive line. Isaiah Wynn, it looks like he was born with the aqua and orange tint because he just fits in so well on this offensive line. Connor Williams looks like the parent of the entire operation, just super annoyed that he wasn't out there as the offensive line struggled. And then, I don't think we even talk about Robert Hunt enough, just because since day one, he's just been such that calming presence on the offensive line, where at least if you knew there was one guy who not only would have the dopest style of outfits going to the stadium, but also the best performer on that offensive line game in and game out, man, it's been him without a doubt.
Yeah, it's just a completely revamped group and just a completely big surprise. And that's the theme of the show. Surprises for the year. And if you would have told us at the beginning of the year that the Dolphins would have one of the top offensive lines in the NFL, I think we all would have called you a liar, but it just so happens to be the truth, and a surprise at that.
Josh, what's surprising you these days?
Okay, so this was a surprise. I mean, I knew we all kind of thought highly of DeShon Elliot, but I don't think that I realized how good he was. I mean, he's 26 years old. They signed him for a 1-year deal worth $1.77 million. So we're going to talk about this, for the entire season, the entire offseason, all these different pieces they got to sign. But I mean, coming into the year, I thought David Long was going to be the big difference maker on that defense, and it has absolutely been DeShon Elliott. I mean, we saw how bad that defense looked against the Bills when he was out of the lineup. They asked Brandon Jones to do some of the things that he was doing, and he just could not do it because I don't know about you, but I always thought Brandon Jones was better box safety, more of a strong safety type that really can't cover that well. That's kind of complete opposite of what DeShon Elliott does. He can cover well, he can drop down the box and do those things, but they have him playing back more and have Holland coming down in the box and doing those things. So again, I could not believe how much different this defense looked without him, how much better it looked last week. You saw him come down, make some stops in the run game, do just all over the field, and he allows that versatility. They allow Javon Holland to come down the box and do some of those things, which has him rated as the number one safety by Pro Football Focus. I was looking it up, and DeShon Elliott's 18th out of 86 safeties. So he's playing his best football. 76.8 defense grade, 78.8 run grade, and a 73.9 tackle grade. I have down that him and Javon Holland are peanut butter and jelly. And yeah, man, I'm just surprised at how good he is. I mean, I knew he was a decent player. What's that?
Who's peanut butter? Who's jelly? Let me hear this.
Was it crunchy peanut butter or is it smooth?
No. Well, which is better? Which do you prefer? The peanut butter is better, right?
Well,
I'm a jelly guy.
The peanut butter is more of a stabilizing presence, where the jelly is like the pizzazz.
Then it has to be Holland. Then okay.
I think Holland's the peanut butter. I agree.
Okay, yeah, he's the peanut butter. But again, I just we knew he was a solid player. I just didn't think he was going to supplant Brandon Jones and just again look like a difference maker out there. So I wanted to give DeShon Elliott his flowers. That's my little rant.
Well, and another thing to consider with DeShon Elliott, he missed a game this year, and that game happened to be against the Buffalo Bills, and you saw that defense just fall to pieces when he wasn't out there. And it wasn't just that they got lit up through the air, which definitely did happen, but the communication was an issue, and guys weren't in the right spots, and there was a lot of blown coverages and misalignments and things like that. And it felt like that could be directly attributed to DeShon Elliott not being on the field. So yeah, he's a big contributor in that defense as far as what he does, during the plays and the plays that he makes. But he's also, at least it seems, that he is kind of the glue that holds it all together, at least on that back end. When he missed that game against the Bills, there's too much confusion in the secondary is basically what I'm getting at. And hopefully, fingers crossed, he stays healthy through the rest of the season and we don't have to deal with that again, because that was a mess.
I'm surprised neither of you went the route of, we all thought it'd be a Texas safety, but no one thought it'd be Elliott type of thing, because he actually was also a member of the Texas Longhorns, just like Brandon Jones was. Guys, serious question here. Would you rather allow a 1-yard reception that was a touchdown or a 38-yard reception?
That's not a touchdown?
Yeah, you did get that. I did say that touchdown was for 1 yard. Probably the 1 yard. I don't know. We won the game, right? So the 1 yard touchdown really didn't matter.
All I ask is because DeShon Elliot has been targeted 7 times in coverage this year. He's only allowed 2 receptions, a 38-yard completion in week 3, and then, the 1-yard touchdown in week 1. So I think that's a big surprise in it, too. We kind of thought Javon Holland would be that coverage guy, the guy all over the place. But, I mean, DeShon Elliott is stepped right in, and he's taken leadership of that secondary. And it's been such an impressive feat to watch. You look at his missed tackles. He only has 3 on the season compared to 19 tackles. A solid coverage grade, especially week 3 against Denver. But, I mean, we could have looked pretty solid against Denver. Guys, one of my favorite things to do during the offseason is really try to identify paths for people to, earn playing time and get on the right side here. How does Brandon Jones do that, considering that DeShon Elliott? I mean, Marek, you mentioned it, how different the defense looks with him on and off the field. I mean, that's not something you can ignore.
Yeah, Brandon Jones, I just never felt like he was a big fit for the Fangio-style defense. Also, he's just hasn't been healthy. He's trying to come back from that ACL. It takes you a little bit of time to get there, but I think he has to be used more in that blitzing role, that thumper role. He's got to be down in the box. He's got to play closer to the line of scrimmage, because his coverage just has never really been a strong suit for him, and certainly was not a strong suit this season when he saw more playing time against the Buffalo Bills when DeShon Elliott was out. So I think if you're going to most effectively use somebody like Brandon Jones, you got to get him closer to the line of scrimmage.
Then at that point, then you might be showing the offense what you're doing, right? Brandon Jones hasn't been out there at all. Now he's in the game. Oh, this dude's coming off the edge. So I don't know. I would like to see Vic Fangio figure it out. I mean, kind of the same thing we said about Mike Gesicki last year. Mike McDaniel's an offensive mastermind. Figure out a way to use him. And I'm not sure that necessarily happens. But Brandon Jones coming back from that severe injury, obviously, again, being outplayed by DeShon Elliott, who just looks better in that situation. I mean, he's only been in the box 38 times. He's been back at free safety 208 and then 24 in the slot. And Holland's numbers are way up in the box. So, I mean, who would you rather have up there in the box at this point, Brandon Jones or Javon Holland? I mean, Javon Holland's, the clear-cut guy there, but you do want to find a way. We kept hearing about 3 safeties, this, that, and the other thing. Find a way to utilize Brandon Jones' skill set, but like we've all said, that Buffalo Bills game, you could definitely see that Elliott wasn't in the game, and I think that's when I finally realized, hell of a signing. We need to find a way to re-sign this dude.
Unmuted, I will go ahead and say that Brandon Jones sacrificed 2 missed tackles against the Buffalo Bills. He missed another tackle against the Denver Broncos. He does have a decent coverage grade of about a 65 according to Pro Football Focus, but overall defensive grade is 60. His tackling grade is a 28, which if you have any type of stat, anything that resembles a Liam Eichenberg stat, you're in trouble here. Guys, something that I brought up, and this might sound a little crazy, but there was a guy, it was when the Falcons, they had their Super Bowl run, and then I think I forgot, but they were using safeties as linebackers. There was one line or safety they brought all the way up to play linebacker, and he was a smaller dude, but he fit in just because the way offenses are playing, spreading out the field. I cannot think of the guy's name to save my life, so I hope you guys can help me here. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Can you find a way for Brandon Jones maybe to impact the team at linebacker, another situation where the Dolphins are struggling a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely room for him to do that once he gets fully healthy. And, maybe it's just one of those things where Fangio is still kind of seeing where these guys fit best. He admitted himself, Fangio did, that he did not watch tape on these guys, which I don't know if I believe that, because that seems irresponsible, like if you're asking me. But, if that's true and he didn't watch tape on these guys, then he can only go by what he's seeing in practice, what he saw in training camp, and what he's seen in these games so far. And maybe it just took, 5 regular season games or 4 regular season games going back to that Bills game for him to realize, hey, maybe Brandon Jones is best in the box and maybe I should move him closer to the line of scrimmage. So we'll see what happens on that front as the season progresses. But thankfully, you have a guy like DeShon Elliott on this team who's picking up, Jones's slack, and he's really excelling in his role.
I was thinking of Deion Jones was the player I was thinking of.
They're
both 6'1", but the difference is Deion Jones weighs about 30 more pounds than Brandon Jones. So that'd be kind of I don't know if it'd work out just as well having him kind of come in the box, especially I look back to what Cater Kohu kind of struggled with last year when they used him in the slot. He'd get washed out sometimes in the run game, and that's kind of the issue, Josh. You brought it up perfectly. You wonder if you try to do anything, play to these guys' strengths. Well, Brandon Jones is on the field. He's going to be running straight at your face. Otherwise, I mean, what else is he doing out there? So we're hoping praying that Vic Fangio is still figuring out a few things, because I've always been a huge Brandon Jones fan. I'd love for him to come in, even if he's not that full-time playmaker. I think even when Jalen Phillips comes back, why can't, Brandon Jones be like Andrew Van Ginkel was last year, right? He's not always on the field, but your eyes instantly go to him when he's on the field, because there's going to be some sort of havoc. That's my positive spin and hope for Brandon Jones. But yeah, I really like the DeShon Elliot pick. When we were talking all throughout the offseason about free agent signings, I mean, we got to do a better job at just saying, hey, we know nothing. Let's talk about these guys who might end up being something. Marek, speaking of knowing nothing, what has been surprising you?
Also, speaking of Andrew Van Ginkel, you kind of foreshadowed my guy there, but it's AVG, baby. And that's not to say I'm surprised he's performing well, because I've always been a big fan of Andrew Van Ginkel, and I've always felt that when he's on the field, like you mentioned, Jake, he's somebody that gets the job done, whatever you're asking him to do. But the reason why his performance has been surprising this season so far is because he almost was not a member of the Miami Dolphins this season. They kind of went down to the clock was about to hit midnight, and he was about to sign with the New England Patriots. He took that visit to New England, and we all thought, oh, that's a classic Bill Belichick move. He's going to take a guy who might have been underutilized in Miami, and he's going to feature him in his defense, and he's going to explode and have a career year and probably destroy us the couple times we face him. And then Vic Fangio, got his probably a rotary telephone, if I'm guessing, what Vic Fangio uses. He probably, spins the dial on that. And he called AVG up and he said, hey, I think you would be a good fit in the defense that I'm trying to run here, and we'd like to bring you back. So the reports are that AVG took a smaller deal to return to Miami, the team that drafted him in 2019, I believe. And we're happy that he did so, because I'm just going to say, he's been the Dolphins' best pass rusher this season so far. He actually leads the team with 4 sacks, with the caveat that Jalen Phillips has been down for a couple games and AVG's been filling in there, but he's been doing it really, 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 really well. This is actually the highest graded season of his career so far on PFF. He has an 89.9 overall grade. That comes with an 86.2 pass rush grade. Here's the real kicker. It also comes with a 91 pass coverage grade. That's insanity. He's been targeted 3 times. He's given up 2 receptions, but only for 1 yard, 1 single solitary yard.
Did you see the stat right after that? So Andrew Van Ginkel has given up 2 receptions on 3 targets for a total of a yard. He has given up 11 yards of yak.
Somehow.
Yes, these passes have started 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage in total. I think that's the funniest thing ever, because there was 1 reception for 1 yard last week against the Giants that included 7 yards of yak. I think that is just so funny. That kind of goes to show how silly some of these stats can get. But dude, I love the point you brought up about him in coverage, because I think that's a game changer. And Josh, I mean, that's the difference between someone like AVG and Brandon Jones. All of a sudden, Van Ginkel can go out there and at least slow down someone in coverage. He ain't no Revis Island, but I mean, you can get the job done.
Yeah, and I think he's even better than, if I'm being honest, Jerome Baker in coverage, right? I mean, I think Andrew Van Ginkel's just, I feel like he's determined coming back to Miami, wants to prove to everyone why, he needs to be re-signed, right? He is, like you mentioned, the best pass rusher on this defense right now with Jalen Phillips out, Bradley Chubb's out there, what we invested in him, and, it's kind of sad to say, but at the end of the day, Andrew Van Ginkel gives it his all out there. And I think that's what a lot of it has to do with. I've written down that he's a menace that plays with his hair on fire, because you can just see Andrew Van Ginkel just flying all over the field, making tackles, getting in the backfield. You see him using a bunch of different tools, whether it's a spin move now that we're seeing from him, looking like Cam Wake. He's using those Mr. Miyagi hands to get flash past the offensive lineman. I mean, he has really stepped his game up, and you got to credit Vic Fangio, like you mentioned, Marek, because he called him up and said, I want you in this defense, and they found a role for him. So it sucks that it had to come at Jalen Phillips' expense at first, but you're not taking Andrew Van Ginkel off the field at this point, right? I mean, he looks too damn good, and at that point, that's a good problem to have, I guess. But yeah, Andrew Van Ginkel, man, good one.
And pass rusher, those guys are, one of the position groups on a team where the more the merrier, right? You can never have enough quality pass rushers, especially with the amount of rotation that happens in these games, especially home games in Miami where the temperatures real high, and the humidity is also high, and it turns into a swamp down there. So having him in the rotation, even when Jalen Phillips gets back, and to see that he's playing at such a high level, it's just invaluable. So he actually has 15 solo tackles, which is tied for 4th among all linebackers in the NFL this season. And his 4 sacks tied for 14th out of all linebackers in the NFL this season. So not just a great player on the Dolphins, just a great player in general, and another player that you have to figure out how to get locked in long-term if you want to keep him around. Because I think they got him on a 1-year deal at just over $2 million, like maybe $2.6 million right now, to keep AVG, in the aqua and orange this season. So these are good problems to have. They're certainly problems, but I guess we don't have to worry about that until this season's over.
Yeah, so Van Ginkel's career high in sacks is 6. That happened in 2021. And Marek, you brought up his pass rush grade this year of an 86.2. He was a 70.1 back in 2021. And gentlemen, please don't take this as me hating or anything, but you look at this Dolphins defensive line, the Christian Wilkins, Zach Sealer, you throw in Bradley Chubb, and here I am naming the entire roster. I guess the point I'm trying to get at here is, I know it doesn't simply work this way of just dragging a player and dropping him elsewhere, but do you guys feel that Andrew Van Ginkel's making the most of his situations, or he's someone that the offense actually has to pull itself to, and someone they need to be aware of? Because I'm starting to think it's more of he's taking advantage of these great opportunities he's had. Because I don't want to just pump Bradley Chubb to the side. I think his power and strength, I think offenses gravitate towards that and are focused on that, opening up opportunities for Van Ginkel. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think he's been awesome. He's taken advantage and he deserves to get paid nicely. I'm just curious your thoughts on, when you have the stacked defense, where he really fits in on that totem pole.
That could be part of it, Jake. Bradley Chubb, he's got the big name, he's got the big contract, doesn't have the big numbers right now, although he is getting to the quarterback a fair amount. And he is affecting plays. They're just not turning into sacks. AVG could be the beneficiary of that. He might be getting more, one-on-one reps against these offensive tackles. But I go back to that play last week against the Giants where he, injured Daniel Jones, and not to celebrate an injury, but like his waist bend on that pass rush to get around that left tackle and just to completely crush Daniel Jones from behind. That was a blindside hit, and you saw it coming. For about 2 seconds, you knew Jones was about to get smacked on that one. And I believe that play was flagged for holding in the secondary. I think Xavier Howard got a penalty for holding on that. Otherwise, it would have been another sack for Andrew Van Ginkel, and he would have 5 sacks instead of 4, and he'd be bumped up that list instead of 14th in the NFL as far as linebackers are concerned. They still have him, graded as a linebacker, because even though he's been playing more edge rusher role ever since week 1. But he just looked so good. He looked unstoppable. It was against a backup left tackle and whatnot. But if he can continue to have that type of production for this team, and then you can start getting some of those sacks for Chubb, and Jalen Phillips comes back and he starts lighting these opposing offenses on fire, like this could be a unit that right now feels like, at times, at least a couple games, this defensive unit has held this team back just a little bit. Chargers wasn't a great game for them. And obviously the Bills game was a massacre. But if this team can continue to progress, this defense can continue to progress, and these pass rushers can get to the quarterback a little bit more, follow Andrew Van Ginkel's lead, why don't you? Then I think this Miami Dolphins team will be better for it. And there's really not much. They can't really get much higher. They're top 5 in all the power rankings right now. So there's only a couple spots you can jump. But, that'd be a good thing for us long-suffering Dolphins fans if they can reach the top of that mountain and maybe bring home a Lombardi trophy for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I kind of think I'm with you, Jake. You might be taking advantage of some of those situations. You guys both mentioned Bradley Chubb and how, a lot of the stuff he does, a lot of us get down on him for it because it doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but he absolutely has made everyone on that defensive line better, get better matchups and things like that. So I think, if he continues to play this way, we might start seeing, offense's game plan, maybe, add some extra blocking over on that side where AVG is. But I think it might be a little bit too early for that, but it's just crazy because who do you match up with? Jalen Phillips is going to eventually be out there. Bradley Chubb. You got Javon Holland coming down from the box. You're eventually going to have X and Jalen Ramsey on the outside. There's so many pieces on this defense that you got to account for that Andrew Van Ginkel's probably going to get a lot of those one-on-one matchups. And dude, he's just a guy that you're never gonna doubt or think that can't do it, because he's proven time and time again. He just busts his ass, does the work, and he's a gritty player that we all love. So I don't know how they're gonna keep him around. I don't know where they're gonna find a role for him. Maybe even slide Jerome Baker out, let him play a little linebacker, right? I mean, I keep hearing Vic Fangio talking about how he wants to see more out of Jerome Baker. So I don't know what they'll do here, but that's why Vic Fangio is getting paid all that money. But so glad that we're seeing him play some good football here with the Miami Dolphins, because it would have sucked so bad to see him having success up there in New England. That would have been, and we would have had Chase Winovich.
Did you hear Van Ginkel made Winovich cut his hair? He actually stopped him in the locker room and said, "Bro, I'm the guy."
That's a joke, right? It's a
1,000% a joke.
That'd be awesome.
And again, I'm not trying to hate here. I'm just trying to, go back to the idea of what would his Madden grade be. And I think the best part about Andrew Van Ginkel is he does everything in his power to make defensive coordinators know you cannot take me off the field. Marek mentioned on how many tackles he has. He's missed just 2 tackles on the season. We've talked about how good he is in coverage. This is someone that it's Vic Fangio's job, if he's making the millions and millions he's making, just get him on the field. It doesn't have to be what his strength is. He's proven that he is not a liability on the field, and that's why you bring in someone like Van Ginkel, and that's why he instantly becomes a fan favorite. I don't want to put you guys on the spot too much here. Have anyone you're disappointed in as we're wrapping up here? Anyone really just stick out right away? Jason Sanders, disappointed.
He hasn't done much. He's only kicking extra points because we're scoring touchdowns, man.
We're learning.
If you're going to be disappointed in someone in that special teams unit, I think Jake Bailey, limited opportunities, but I think his punts have been kind of crappy. A little shankopotamus.
20-yard punt against the Giants, I think it was. Gross.
Yeah, he's not getting a lot of practice, at least not on game day. So maybe he needs to be spending a little more time on the field after actual practice during the week is over, because some of those punts have looked pretty poor.
Josh, the wheels are turning. Can you think of anyone?
Yeah, no, I was trying real hard to think of someone. I mean, can I just piggyback on my Jerome Baker statement? I don't have any of his stats in front of me.
Jerome Baker, little Jalen Waddle, not really his fault. The ball's going elsewhere. He's still getting open, and he had a decent game last week, despite a couple interceptions when he was targeted. And I think he'll pick it up as the season rolls along. But I think he's not having quite the year that we thought Jalen Waddle was going to have. And that's not to say he won't, because I do think it'll turn around. But maybe so far through 5 games, Jalen Waddle is, on the lower side of the top players on this team.
We're yet to talk about them, and that's the Carolina Panthers. They arrive at Hard Rock Stadium this weekend with their 0-6 record. Marek, can I get some of your
was that a spoiler alert there? 0-6?
Oh, yeah. Maybe I'm already, my mind is already putting that 5 into a 6. It's very possible.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure my kids were surprised that there was a team called the Carolina Panthers. I'm pretty sure they had no idea that was a team. Us being in the Midwest, they're so far away, and they're pretty irrelevant right now. They don't have very many good players. Bryce Young has looked like not the best rookie quarterback on the field this season, despite being drafted number 1 overall. And I don't see this game being much of a problem for the Miami Dolphins, and neither do my children. So they gave me the standard, they're going to win by a lot answer. So last time they did that, the Dolphins beat the Broncos 70-20. So I think we might be closer to that this week. This might be one of those weeks where the starting offense gets to rest for most of the fourth quarter. So I'm going to predict a pretty significant win here. I think they're going to hold the Panthers to 2 field goals, 6 points total. I think the Dolphins are going to put up a 40 burger on the Panthers. So I'm predicting 40-6. How's that?
Now, you got to keep in mind here, the only reason the Giants scored 2 of their 3 field goals last week, 2 of their 3 field goals and a touchdown, had nothing to do with the defense. So
it was Tua playing YOLO ball.
Tua playing YOLO ball, Jake Bailey kicking it like it was a soccer ball. So I like the idea here, but keep in mind there's some other variables. Tua might get bored and try to give, I don't know, Robert Hunt a touchdown pass or something and throw another
Chase Claypool breakout performance.
It's so weird that we get to talk about the Dolphins like this. I do not have it. It's fun. It's a blast, but I am so horrified talking about the Dolphins as a 4-1 juggernaut team. Let me just put that out there.
Did you guys see the video of practice, Claypool's first practice with the team, where he's standing next to Wes Welker, and it looks like almost like a Bigfoot video. Like he's that large compared to Wes Welker, and Wes Welker, not, a large man himself, but Chase Claypool, 6'4", 238 pounds, just towering over him, looking like, a Greek god. That got me a little juiced up. I think the Dolphins could use his skill set in a variety of ways, maybe an end zone type player. You're looking, everyone said, and you saw glimpses of it at the beginning of the year, that Eric Ezukama was going to be that Deebo Samuel role for the Miami Dolphins. Hell, that's going to be Chase Claypool now. It might not happen for a few weeks, but I'm looking at Chase Claypool in that Deebo Samuel type role with that frame. And if you remember his rookie season in Pittsburgh, he took a lot of end arounds and jet sweeps and things like that, for the Steelers that year. So it's in his wheelhouse. It's in his skill set. I'd be interested to see if Mike McDaniel wants to tap into that a little bit here.
He's that big slot we were talking about a couple pods ago, right? I mean, it's just I know, Jake, you were talking about how exciting it is to be able to talk about this Dolphins team compared to some of these other teams that we covered back in the day, back in the Cover 32 day. Those Dolphins teams were so bad, but it's just such a breath of fresh air what the Dolphins are doing. And back to Claypool, I mean, dude, he looks like if you would have stacked Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on top of each other, and
I put it in the trench coat,
and you just
stick
hope
them together with maple syrup, and you got Chase Claypool.
Yeah,
they're sneaking into the R-rated movie.
It's like that dude from BoJack, Mr. Man or whatever he is. I can't remember. But back to Claypool. I mean, if he can just show that he wants to be here, work hard and grind. I mean, the talent's there. So we'll see how that turns out. But I like your idea, Marek, using him in the Deebo Mapletron role.
That now that you bring it up and you mentioned it, Marek, the idea that the starters might not play all game. I might be willing to shoot my shot at a Chase Claypool anytime touchdown ticket if the price is right. I could see them, if you're up 27-6, or again, no game is take no game for granted, yada yada yada. But if the Dolphins are up 27-0, you don't think Mike White's gonna get Chase Claypool a touchdown? I almost think it's like a given.
Yeah, he might.
Or Robbie Chosen.
Yeah, put some money on that. Put some money on Chosen. Put some money on Chris Brooks, maybe finding the end zone here this
Obviously,
week.
Alec Ingold. Throw some on him too, of course.
Yeah, he was in a walking boot Monday, from what they said, and he didn't practice today. So hopefully Ingold can play. If he can't, it's the Panthers, so we'll figure it out. But maybe Chris Brooks gets in there a little bit at fullback. We see a little fullback sneak on a 4th and goal situation, and we finally convert one of those.
Running on short yardage. Can we do that? Can we run on short yardage? Is that allowed?
You might as well give it a shot, right?
I was just say, why would we do that when we can just throw the ball?
60 yards downfield. That's how Claypool scores his touchdown.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening to another Dolphins podcast. If you are just finding the show, you can actually also find us on YouTube. We are at the 560 WQAM YouTube channel. You can find so many cut-ups, so many clips at Houts on Twitter. You can find Josh on YouTube at Take It to the Houts, at mbrave13. I am jmetal94. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. It's one of my favorite days of the week. Maybe not a weekend day, but we're getting pretty close there. That is all we have for another episode of Another Dolphins podcast. We'll talk to you next time. And most importantly, fins up.
Fins up, baby.
Fins up.
Miami.